It's casual, not formal. It's hosted by Rory Penland, and Renee in tow. It's time to start the show. 1, 2, 3, go!
There we are. Hello, it's Casual. We're live, and I'm Rory Penland, the host, and let's bring up my co-host, Miss Renee Jaworski.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I get to spend it with you and Annie Gaybis, which is like driving me nuts right now.
For you to have the time off.
I know.
I said, it's your birthday. Do you want the time off?
Like, no, don't you dare let me have some time off on this day. I am so excited to have her here, and my mind is just exploding. All my friends, of course, ever since you told me that, they're giving me questions, feeding me questions. Ask her this, ask her this. I'm like, damn it, it's not your show. But everybody
your
wants
show, Renee, as well as mine.
I know, but it's not. But everybody has something that they want to ask her, and that's okay, because maybe if we're really good, maybe she'll even come back like a second time. You never know.
That's possible too.
We can dream about it.
We've got up to an hour tonight to ask her whatever we desire.
I know. So let's. You want to just get right to it? You want to bring her
up?
Yeah,
let's get right to it. Let's go ahead and bring her up. Annie Gaybis.
Woo! Here she is.
Hello.
There she is.
Hello.
And I have been putting on the promo materials and Gaybis.
That's right.
But because I knew all of your friends called you Annie.
Yes.
But I didn't realize that you prefer to be called Annie by everybody now. So thank you for informing of that.
As of Renee's birthday, yes.
All right. Renee's birthday is a new era.
Happy birthday, Renee. I hope you do something very exciting tonight.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure that I'll find a way, but not as exciting as spending this hour with you, Annie. So I really do appreciate it.
Well,
thank you. All right, Rory, you want to get the first question in there?
Well, and again, I want to apologize for my appearance. There's still no AC here.
Oh, no.
So I got a little fan on me, and we'll get AC Thursday, I hope.
Oh, my goodness.
So bad. And he's in Florida, people.
And we were talking
he's
before the show. Annie says their AC is going to be replaced this week as well, probably on Thursday.
It's like dominoes. You know it just.
Yeah, it's Florida. It's Florida, darling.
It's Florida.
So, okay, you are an actress, you're a dancer, you're a singer, you're an all-around performer. Where and when did you get the bug to get started? What made you want to get up in front of crowds?
Well, it's not a fascinating story, but this is my story. As a child, I went to see a cousin of mine that I had no idea could dance, do I guess what you'd call it now, a salon session with her Debbie London School of Dance. And I watched it, and I couldn't believe what my cousin was able to do. And I wanted to do that as well. So that's how I developed into the dance. And then acting came along right after that, and then singing. And as a child, I studied with Center Stage in Maryland, and it's a professional equity company. And I got to do a lot of children's roles, and then I got into teenage roles, and then I graduated high school and went on with my life in a career outside of it. But I remember them having to explain to my father at the age of 8 why I had to join equity.
And when did you actually make the leap out to Hollywood, to California?
I had a stint for a while to do a lot of to get money to get going into. First, I went to New York, but to get from New York to get to New York, I worked as a Playboy Bunny, and I saved up everything I had, and it went immediately to first, last, and security, a bed, a television, and a chest of drawers, and some kitchen essentials. And luckily I started working soon after that. And then after a while, I won this contest called Miss Broadway. It wasn't about my talent. It wasn't about, it was about your looks. And I won it. And it was either 2 weeks in Hawaii or 2 weeks in Los Angeles. And I picked the 2 weeks in Los Angeles. And then I never left. And the funny thing was, one of the shows that I got to do as Miss Broadway when I was there for my 2 weeks was the Regis Philbin show. And at the time in Los Angeles, there was a chain of department stores called the Broadway. So I guess Regis hadn't really checked his notes, because he asked me that he said, "Oh, so you're Miss Broadway. What department do you work in?" And he said, "Lingerie." And I said, "Only in movies."
So you're Miss Broadway, are you? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, very
Was I
familiar.
close?
Very familiar.
Which department?
I did a lot of shows with him. Very, very familiar.
Well,
wait,
and again, you
back
mentioned
up.
Playboy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wait. What's the Playboy? That is so fascinating. You just glossed over it, right? But everyone here is like, wait, what? How did you get in with those people? How was that whole experience for you? And especially back then, also give us about the year and the era that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, this was when Playboy had now progressed to paper cards instead of the actual Playboy key. They were on paper keys type of a thing. And it was in the 70s. And I had gone to Boston to continue my studying in theater and in dance. And I was looking for a job. I was living with 3 other girls, and I had gone to all the art galleries on a street in Boston, and I because every time I visited one, there was always a girl sitting behind a desk, and it looked like she just served coffee and explained about the art, and then they bought a painting. I thought I could do that, but they didn't seem to want that. So as I continued down the street, I was on my way to that big department store in Boston. I think it was Filene's, and I saw this thing on the street, and it said hiring today. And there was a doorman. This was the back door. I had no idea it was Playboy. And he said, "Are you here for the interview?" I said, "What are they interviewing for?" He said, "Prospective bunnies." I said, "Playboy bunnies?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Yeah." So,
Of course I am. Come on.
Sure.
so you see, in Maryland, I thought I can say it now because I know nothing's going to happen, but in Maryland, you could be 18 and you can serve drinks. Well, I didn't know in Boston you had to be 21. So luckily for me, I fit, they have you try on an outfit, and then you go and find the bunny mother takes you in, and she shows you off to the manager of the Playboy Club, and he looks you over and he goes, "Fine." And then I had to go to bunny school. So I was studying my formal training, and I was going to bunny school. And luckily for me, she had run out of birth validation forms. That was so lucky for me. So I had a cousin who was a lawyer, still a lawyer, and I called him and I said, "Marvin, I have a question to ask you." I said, "I've just had this wonderful opportunity, don't mention it to my father, that I'm going to be a Playboy bunny. And I just didn't realize that you had to be 21. And as you know, I'm not 21 yet, because in Maryland, you only have to be 18. So I said, what could happen?" He said, "Well, they could get a big fine. They might have to temporarily close the club." I said, "What about me?" He said, "No, nothing's going to happen to you." "Oh, great." I said, "All right."
You'll be exploited. It's okay.
You're fine. Well, what was your understanding of a Playboy bunny? What did that mean to you in the culture and in your upbringing? Like, what were you expecting, and how was it different than what you expected, and how was it kind of what you expected?
Because my father had a key, and I had gone for some of my birthday treats growing up to the Playboy Club in Baltimore. So it looked all very glamorous to me. And I never, ever thought for a minute about trying out for one. So I was like, I thought this was like the most glamorous thing I had ever done in my life. And there is definitely a bunny training period. And you have to pass both a written test.
Bunny 101.
Yeah. You have to pass a written test and you have to pass a physical test, because there was a certain way to carry the tray. There was a certain way to serve the drink with your back arched. And there was a certain calling order, which I think I can actually remember. And I just want you to know, I didn't know anything really about liquor. I just knew there were a couple wine names and there was a couple beer names, and I didn't know anything. So I memorized everything, but I didn't know what I was talking about. And this is the calling order. Let me see if I can remember it. Scotch, Canadian, bourbon blended, rye Irish gin, mixed blended cream, beer and ale, wine, soda, and would you like a souvenir mug?
Yeah, that was
Awesome.
great. You did that so perfect.
That's
I love
awesome.
that.
And I didn't know what I was
See,
talking
you really do remember college.
You do. Well, what was the music scene like at that time too? Like you're in these bars, you're in these clubs. Like give us the cultural vibe kind of who did you get to meet? Who were you around?
Okay, this is
Yeah.
this is the funniest thing. Well, you have to be there for a real long while to be up in the club room, which I eventually came back and sang when I got my cabaret act together. I got to tour the Playboy clubs, but to get to be able to serve dinners and stuff, that was like a whole different set of instructions. So I was like in the main floor and the floor below, where they just served drinks, and and it was basically that. And they had sometimes a little jazz piano going and stuff, but upstairs was where and they were all like veteran people. I remember this one man that I thought was just so outstandingly sophisticated looking, and he was sitting at the bar, kind of like, and he was just he was standing at the bar, and he looked so elegant. And I said to one of the girls, I said, "Who's that?" They said, "That's our star entertainer for the next 2 weeks, Billy Eckstein." He's a very, very, very famous man, very well respected and everything. Now, the fun part that I can tell you about is while I was in training, the bunny mother would wear a slicker and she'd wear a slicker hat, because you'd have to try out these drinks like Bloody Marys and all that stuff. And she had so many spills that she looked like she actually, you remember like in elementary school when you'd be crossing the street and there'd be the policewoman that would let you cross, and they were always in the slicker and stuff?
Yes.
She looked like. So, and we always did it like mid-afternoon when it was not lunchtime and people weren't coming in yet for cocktails for happy hour. So one day I was doing it, and Joe Namath was there with this group of people, and they were going to have this is when Joe was Broadway Joe, and they were going to have a big private luncheon. And he saw me and he asked if I could serve the luncheon. And they told him that I was a bunny in training, but he seemed to really want me to serve this luncheon. And so they called me and they said, Joe Namath has requested you. I said, I'm not ready for food. I'm not ready for food. They go, we're going to have one of the other bunnies help you with the food, but all you have to do is serve the drinks. So now Joe Namath isn't wearing a slicker and a slicker hat.
He's not dressed like the Gordon's Fishman. Yeah.
He's dressed in a nice suit, and all these people I don't know what the meeting was about. So I was a little nervous about serving these drinks. And I had these drinks on my thing, and I was serving him, and the Bloody Mary didn't make it to his table. It made it to Joe Namath's lap.
So,
Oh my God.
But he was very calm and cool and laughed. He's not like a laughing out loud person. He's more of like a
right.
kind of person. And he was fine. He was really fine with it. And that was the last time I saw Joe Namath.
Bunny mother came out and said, "We'll get you somebody else."
I had to finish the thing. It was okay, but he was
Nice
dabbed.
raincoat.
He was being dabbed. He was being absolutely. It was just. But he asked for it, and I was not ready. I was like in my.
Yeah.
It was 2.5 weeks in
Understood.
high school. I wasn't.
But it was
ready.
nice that you could catch somebody's eye like that, a famous person. And
Yeah, that shows
I want
how.
her.
That was-
Yeah.
That went.
Right. So. And
That
then,
is so cool.
and then one of the things that you always said as a bunny, what you learned at bunny school was they always seem to want to touch the bunny's tail. You know, this big round, it looks like a big giant powder puff, you know, on your backside. They always want you to touch the bunny. And so you'd have to say, no touching the bunny's tail. And then people used to offer to buy it from me, you know, and it was my costume. I mean, when I left, I didn't get to take and nobody used their real name. Nobody uses their real name.
What was your name? What was your name?
Well, I thought I was being original. I said, well, then can I have the name Heather? Well, Heather is the most popular name.
We have 17 Heathers.
So they said, how about another name? So I thought, and I remembered, they had Dr. Zhivago like reissued or something. And
Right.
I said, I'll be Bunny Lara. So that's what I.
There you go.
You look like Lara. That looks good.
That's right.
Little Lara's theme playing when you come in the room.
You know, it's very odd. You know, I did a lot with Playboy, but one thing never had to do with the other thing. Like when I got to work in the Playboy clubs, it was just bookings that I got, and I happened to mention that I had been a bunny, and they were able to promote it that way. And then when I got in the magazine, it had nothing to do with me being a bunny or with being singing in the clubs. It had to be me being a loser on Star Search.
Oh, wow.
So you were on Star Search.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I was on Star
That's
Search.
an honor to even be on Star Search.
Well, I wasn't on as a singer. I wasn't on as a dancer. I was on as a spokesmodel. It was out of my modeling agency. And a lot of people in the modeling agency they were models. They weren't, some of them, singers or dancers. So they always asked to see from spokesmodels. And that was the only way I was going to get into Star Search. So I lost, but someone came up with a very creative idea about losers on Star Search aren't losers at all, and I was like the example. So that.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I felt like I had, I'd won something, and it was fun. Ed McMahon and all that.
Oh wow! Did you get to like? Do you have any stories about him, or do you remember his personality?
He was someone, unlike Joe Namath, had a big laugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big laugh. So I really didn't get to know him where we shot it on Sunset, but years and years later, I was with my husband, and we were at this round table, and it was some big dinner or something, and Ed McMahon was now married to a woman who designed, I think, fashion or handbags or both. And my husband was here, I was here, Ed McMahon was here, and his wife, and I can't think of her name, was there. Very nice woman. And there were other people at the table. And Ed had several drinks. And at the end,
as usual.
And at the end, I didn't tell him I had been on Star Search or anything, because 5 million people had been on Star Search. How would he, But at the end, we said goodnight, and Ed McMahon grabbed me and gave me the biggest kiss on my lips in front of his wife, my husband, and anyone else who was in the room. I don't know why. And that was my only experience one-on-one with Ed. Man, his wife looked like she wished she wasn't there. And
You pulled a Richard Dawson on you.
And may I say, I felt the same way.
Well, as far as the Playboy
that is
Bunny
such a
thing
funny
is
story, though.
concerned,
It's so true.
we think of, when people are playing or people are in the bunny mansion, being bunnies, hey, cupcake, get me a drink, but it sounds like it was a very positive experience for you.
Yeah, I did go to the mansion a whole bunch of times, a whole bunch of times. You were never allowed to bring a man or date to the mansion. I think you must
Yeah.
have had to be very special to be able to do that. But I used to love it because, there was this documentary series that just finished playing a few months ago on A&E, and it was a 12-part series about the goings-on at the mansion. And I watched this like, what are they talking about? I had such great times there. I felt like, what was I, like Eloise at the plaza, and I just didn't know what was going on. It was just so amazing to me that these girls had supposedly suffered so very much, because it was always very calm when I was there. He would have things on Friday nights and on Sunday nights, and it would be the most fabulous buffets with lobster and anything you wanted. And then afterwards, it would be like a first class movie, sometimes a movie that hadn't even come out yet, that you had only read about in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety. And sometimes there would be the director of the movie that might be there who would be explaining it, or maybe the cameraman, the first cameraman who would be there explaining it. I mean, it was always terrific. And there was always like maybe about 20 women and 7 men, and the 7 men or 8 men were all really much older. They were kind of like Hef's contemporaries. So I just never felt like, I always felt like it was girls' night out, to be truthful with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always felt that way.
And they were always very respectful to you girls.
Always very respectful. And I don't know if you knew anything about this A&E documentary, but it was absolutely shocking to me. I mean, and it's a shame because he can't defend himself. It's like the people that said, all these people that said they slept with Marilyn Monroe, she can't say anything about it because she's not here. And I feel that Hefner can't really say, well, I really wasn't like that, because there's nobody, to defend him otherwise. But I did notice that Barbie Benton, who, she wasn't during my time, but Barbie Benton, who was not mentioned, was not in it, and the
She
girlfriend.
was married to Hef.
No, she wasn't married to him.
Oh, I thought she was married to him.
No, but she dated him for eons, and the person that his girlfriend during the era that I was going up to the mansion and stuff, her name was Carrie Lee, and I also didn't see her being interviewed in it. So I thought that was kind of interesting that and Hef's son wasn't mentioned in it, and his one wife, Kimberly Conrad, she also declined to be in it as well. So you just wonder, I mean, nobody was ever forcing you to go there. Oh, and when you had to go there, it was very interesting. You drive your car up, there's these gates. It was in Bel Air, and there was this rock, this giant rock. And they'd say, then the rock would talk to you, and it would say yes, and you'd say your name, and you were on the list. And if you were on the list, welcome, they said, and these gates opened up, and then you saw this fantastic mansion where there were all these animals, and he had just this menagerie of different types of species. But my most fun there was he had the game room, which was like up, not in the mansion, but kind of up these stairs and everything. And you could play all these great, like the versions, that you always love of like the pinball games, because he was very into that. And you didn't have to put in any quarters. It was like, it's almost like when you get an apartment and it has a washer and dryer, and you've never had an apartment with a washer and dryer before. It's like a revelation. You didn't have to put in quarters or anything into the little game chip, things to play with.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Do you remember anything about Hef particularly? Like, did the bunnies have a lot of interaction with him all the time, or?
Well, most of the girls there were not bunnies. They were just girls that were either prospective playmates, which is different than bunnies, or they were girls that had been playmates, or they were girls that someone had said they would be a really good choice to have up at the mansion. And you never had to dress up on Fridays or Sundays. So it wasn't like everybody was like in sequins and all that stuff. It was more like jeans and a shirt or something casual and fun. And, you know, they'd always have like a bunch of like, let me see who we used to have. Robert Culp and Mac Davis.
I Spy. Mac Davis. Yeah.
And there was this legendary band leader from yesteryear named Ray Anthony. He was there. And the comedian, Rory, Jackie Gale.
Jackie Gale, yeah.
Gale, right. He loved Jackie Gale. And sometimes this veteran actor, Victor Mature.
Victor Mature.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big name.
And then
That's cool.
And Peter Brown. In fact, I think Peter Brown was going through a divorce because he had a trailer for a while that was on the driveway. It was like a curved driveway. He had his own trailer for a while on the property. And so those were the essential men that I saw. Oh, and his best buddy, one of his best buddies, Lee Wolfberg. And then he had his brother also be there too. His brother.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Marilyn Monroe as an example earlier because, you know, he had great respect for Marilyn Monroe, though they had never met. Because she was one of the first girls that was one of the pinups in his magazine. And she actually is responsible, basically, or he feels she's responsible for the great success of Playboy. So he is buried just catty corner from her in the same place. I saw it. I have a picture of it somewhere.
Wow.
He's buried right next to her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
And they never met, but he had
fascinating.
huge respect for her.
Wow. That is huge respect that he wanted to be. I know she's buried somewhere in Westwood. And gosh, that's
yeah, when I go out to LA, I kind of go to the cemeteries and see where people are buried.
That's what you do?
I know that's kind of creepy.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting.
And
I would have
sometimes
never
I'll do an
guessed
impression
that.
of them next to their grave, which is really creepy.
That's a TikTok. That's a TikTok, Rory. Annie, what was like networking like that at that particularly young age? How do you think that pushed you to the next level in terms of your inner confidence and who you felt you were, your identity, but also just like the networking, the social ladder climbing, you're around all these people. So how does this impact you for the next stage of your life?
Well, the person that originally brought me there was someone that I was dating, but he lived in New York. And he told me very clearly that I shouldn't attempt to go up there on my own. And when I said, well, I didn't even know how to do that. And I said, why? And he said, because it will affect your reputation. So then I ran into Lee Wolfberg, who was like his best buddy in a supermarket. And he said, Annie, how come you haven't been back to the mansion? And I said that I was told that, he said, you can come back anytime you want. Well, I think it was like a Thursday. So I said, can I come tomorrow night? And he said yes. And then from then on in, I was on this list for as long as I wanted to be. And it was great. And it was all it was like a lot of fun. I didn't become buddies with any of those girls, but one of the wives of this very famous photographer named Ron Vogel, she was there. He wouldn't be there, but she introduced me to her husband, and he ended up with that shooting of me for Playboy.
Wow.
Do you feel that this was the step to your career in movies? This was a step towards that?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No. This was just a lot of fun to do, and a lot of great food and drinks, any drink you wanted to have, and you could just be casual and you didn't have to worry about making conversation. I'll tell you exactly what I said to Hugh Hefner. Everybody called him Hef, but what you won't believe, all those times I went up there. So one day Lee Wolfberg saw me in the hallway, because everything, you'd go through the main hallways, you'd go from one end of the room to the other in the house, the main floor. And he said, have you ever spoken with Hef? No, I said. He said, well, I think you should tell him. I think you should tell him that you were a bunny in Boston and that you've sung in all these clubs. I said, oh, I don't think he wants to. He said, no, go ahead, tell him. And I just, there's just some people you just don't feel like approaching. And I wasn't sure what to say to him. So I get up to him and I say to him, and Lee Wolfberg's looking on in the distance, and I said to him, I really like coming here. And he smiled with the pipe in his mouth. And then I drifted off as far as I could.
Well, it's good to have you here.
And then the other time that I said something, which was, I guess, directed to him because he was in this group of people, a friend of mine was there. He had been invited, and he called me over. He said, Annie, he said, we're all just thinking of things that start with the initial HH. Can you think of anything? And this is what came out of my mouth, and Hefner's standing right there. I said, ho-hum. And
That's brilliant.
And then
I think it's brilliant.
And they all kind of it was like one of those slow turns, just really say that. And I just waved goodbye, and then off I went. And
then you said Howard Hughes.
that's the only thing I ever said to Hefner or about Hefner. HH, ho-hum. Oh my God.
That is hilarious. I love that.
Look at the monogram pajamas. Okay, so you did move on to movies, and you've been in quite a few, actually.
Wait, we got to ask about Tom Hanks. Talk about, just make sure she talks about Tom Hanks. Bachelor Party.
We're going to start at the beginning, though.
All right.
So, Necromancer. It is a cult horror film. How did you get into that?
This film had come out previously. Oh, there's a real good story with this. The film had come out previously. I had never heard of it. And they decided to reissue it with a new title and additional scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So they were casting for it. And I had done this film previously with John Saxon called The Witching.
Okay.
Anyway, so the cameraman was going to be doing these extra scenes who worked with Orson Welles. And I had been cast in it, and I was having a fitting, and it was in a house in Studio City. And the person that had to get Orson Welles okay on what they were planning on adding, because he was a very particular man on everything, was going to be going after they were going to close up, and he was going to go over to Trader Vic's, and he was on the other side of town, and he was going to meet with Orson Welles. And he turned to me and he said, would you like to go and have dinner with Orson Welles and myself? Yeah. I said,
Would I?
And plus I lived on the other side of town in West Hollywood. So I followed in my car, and we went to Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And we got there, and the Trader Vic's looked like a Polynesian nightmare almost. It was just all this stuff, It just looked like everything. It was just very busy looking, and everybody.
Is that the one that has stagecoaches and stuff coming out of the wall?
No.
That's somebody else. I'm sorry. Trader Joe's. I'm sorry.
So yeah, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. That's a supermarket. Trader Joe's is a supermarket.
I never went inside.
Trader Joe's is a supermarket. It's absolutely. It's one of my favorites. I love it. It's everywhere. That was the coolest part of the interview, by the way. That was awesome.
Okay, so
yes, it's a supermarket.
So we're in there. We park our cars underground. We go in, and he says that I'm here to see Mr. Welles. Oh, Mr. Welles is here already. So we go over to the table, and there's Orson Welles, just like in the ads, just like in the talk shows, just like in everything. There's Orson Welles.
Yep.
And he immediately wanted us to order. before anything else, before he even got into the conversation about this, that, etc., he really wanted us to order. So I'm looking
Hungry.
at the thing, and I ordered a drink, of course, Polynesian drink of something, and I don't know what I had for dinner. And he ordered a whole thing and a bottle of wine, a very good wine, and the man that had to do all this business thing, he ordered his food, and then they talked about things that I had no idea. You know, it was wheeling and dealing and explaining and business stuff, and finally Orson signed off on it, and he asked me a little bit about myself, and he said, you know, he hopes I do well with the movie, and he wished me luck with my career. And then all of him got up and all of him left. And so and he had signed the paper, which was the whole thing. So this man was very happy. And so we had been there for a couple of hours. So he said to the waiter, I'll take my check now. So he comes over with the check, and the man sitting across from me, and he looks at the check, and his eyes like bugged out of his head, because this is like, we're not talking like you know, Universal Productions. This is a small independent. They're going to add some scenes. They're going to re-edit. You know, they're all in a budget.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, it must have been the drink I ordered. That's all I could think. It must have been the drink I ordered. It must have been like extra expensive or something. Oh my God. Maybe it was the bottle of wine Orson ordered. I didn't know. I just watched him. And so he called the waiter over and he said, I don't think this is my check. Oh, yes, sir. He said, Mr. Wells came in before you and the young lady entered, and he ate an entire meal and drank an entire bottle of wine by himself. He said to add it on to your bill. He had 2 meals and 2 bottles of wine.
Yikes. That's Orson for you.
I mean, and the funny thing was, he just couldn't wait for us to order as soon as we sat down. It was interesting.
See, that's how he got you. That's a real jam. Yes.
I know.
This is the beginning.
I never heard of anything like that. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
I can't say that I have in that business. No. I got to ask you, early on, the movie Dolomite just came out about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, with Eddie Murphy. And you were actually in one of the Dolomite movies, The Human Tornado.
With Rudy Ray Moore.
What was that experience like with Rudy Ray Moore?
It was another very low budget.
Oh, yeah. This is the guy that sold records out of the trunk of his car.
Yes. I just saw the movie, so I'm very inspired.
You know, they've called me because there was this person doing a book about, Dolomite, and they wanted me to talk about all these great, experiences, great or otherwise. I really can't tell you. It was just something I did. Maybe I was on it for a week. Maybe I was on it for 3 days. And Rudy Ray Moore, I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know he was a comedian. I didn't know, he had fought. I didn't know any of that. I was just in this independent movie, and it was, I just remember there was a lot of fight scenes in the things I did.
Yes.
And if you think it's hot where you are, Rory, without your air conditioning, it was unbelievable where we were shooting, and there were so many people, and they had to turn the air conditioning off, I remember, because it was
oh my goodness,
sound man. So I really can't tell you, but everybody was like really nice in the film. And the man told me that, I can't think of the name of the actor, but the man that had to pick me up and carry me out became a very well-known actor, but I can't tell you who he is. But I said, and they said, do you have any recollections of him? I said, no, just that he picked me up about 45 takes and took me out.
And took me away from those hot stage lights.
Yeah.
How did you learn all the fighting acting? That's a special skill. So, like, how did you get into that?
I took some courses. I took some stage courses, like stunt.
Stage combat?
Yes. So I could be ready. And it helped me a lot when I did some, performed in some operas where there was a lot of stage coordinating. And,
sure.
stunts and things. And they were really happy to find out that I could, I mean, I sing, but I don't sing opera, but I danced in so many of the Los Angeles opera productions that I was able to do a lot of the stunt things that some of the other dancers couldn't do.
Wow, that's so cool. Opera and fighting on screen. I would have never guessed. That is so interesting.
Well, one thing sometimes leads into another, and then like
Yeah.
I did with Playboy, nothing led into anything, but I did everything you could with Playboy, except Mary Hefner, but I would have had to say more than ho-hum.
You'd have to sit there and watch him eat soup, you know?
And I drank a lot of soda.
Okay. Is there anything you can't do, Annie? I do want to know that. Was there any skill, seriously, that you ever tried that you couldn't do? Like me, I tried to play the flute. I could never play the flute. Is there something you wanted to do you couldn't do?
Cooking.
Really?
I'm not a great
I'm
cook.
surprised. Okay.
And cooking hasn't really fascinated me. So,
Yeah.
Yes. And also I took up flute in school too. And I was at an all-girls high school. I was flute 2, stand 3. So that shows you my flute progress. Flute stand 3.
It's a hard instrument. I have a lot of respect that you can even
Very
make a noise. I could never make a
Getting your
noise on.
just right. Yeah. It's
You go
hard.
just right. All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
All right. Rory,
1980,
next one.
Dudley Moore, Holy Moses, Lorraine Newman.
So much
Any
fun.
stories from that?
Yes. Dudley Moore was a terrific person. It was so much fun on that set. They had an upright piano that was on like a platform on wheels. And when we'd go from scene to scene, I think we shot that at Warner Brothers, from scene to scene, he would be playing this stuff that I had never heard. It was like English saloon tunes and stuff, you know, that the beer drinkers would be, and he could play excellent piano, and he'd be singing, and it was so much fun. And we'd all like to try to jump onto that platform that moved while he'd be playing away until we got into the next set. So it was always a very joyful experience. And he was just a wonderful, charming person, and always upbeat and always happy, and oh, so talented, so talented.
Yes, no doubt. After that, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Burt Reynolds, Dolly Parton.
Would you like to hear the story of how I got on that?
I would.
I think
would.
Everybody's going to say, especially people who dance, they're going to say, that's how she got into this? Okay. So they had, first they were going to do it, and Tommy Toon was going to choreograph it. And that was a couple years before they actually did it. And I had gone to that audition, and I had done quite well. Then they never did the movie. Then they did the movie with Tony Stevens as the choreographer. I didn't know Tony Stevens. They never had any open auditions. I didn't get a chance to possibly be part of it. So I'm on Hollywood Boulevard in an agent's office, and I have an appointment. And this agent thought he had 2 other girls. We were all 3 sitting around his desk at the same time. He was going to do all 3 of us so he could get our pictures and resume and get us out the door. Casting director. And his phone rings.
Casting director.
So he picks up the phone and he says, hold on a second. And he puts his hand over the phone. He said, I see that you girls have dance on your resume. He says, you all dance, right? Yes, we said. All right, he said, I have 3 girls for you. So what happened was, they're in Austin, Texas, and 3 of the women, when they had signed up for it, there was not anything to say that there was going to be nudity in it. But the director decided that Colin Higgins decided he wanted to put, you know, when they had that raid scene when Dom DeLuise comes in and he does the raid and everything. Well,
yeah,
that was a big deal scene. And so he said, would you 3 girls, you know, like, would you girls like to be in best little whorehouse in Texas. You'll have to leave tonight to get to Austin, Texas. And we looked at him like, okay. And so like we ran, you know, I didn't know these two other girls. We packed our bags, we got on the flight, we got into Austin. Now everybody else, of course, had been rehearsing what was coming up, but we had not been privy to it. So some of these women resented the fact that we replaced these 3 dancers because they all had become quite chummy by that time, and they didn't like the fact that we were not going to be able to continue with them, and they got us instead. But the choreographer was such a wonderful man, and he took us and he got us stuff. And then Colin Higgins disliked us so much, he gave us all these special bits to do and stuff, and they resented us even more. And we were paid even more than these girls were because we were doing nudity. And he was always so kind to all of us. And then when we got back to the set at Universal, I hadn't worked with Burt Reynolds on any of the dance scenes that I had done. Now we're at Universal, and this was kind of interesting. They told us all that if we're walking down a corridor or we're leaving a set and we see Burt Reynolds, do not make eye contact with him. Burt Reynolds was really insecure about performing and singing in this movie. And of course, we hadn't been privy to any of the dailies, and I hadn't met Dolly yet either. So on my first day on the set, now I'm at, you know, Universal, Dolly walks over to me. There's everybody there, and she walks over to me and she says, "You ready for this?" This is what she said to me. This was the only thing Dolly Parton ever said to me. "Hi, you're the girl. I saw you in the dailies. You're the girl with the pretty titties."
That sounds like Dolly.
From Dolly Parton, it was really a compliment. So
I mean, if it's coming from Dolly,
you got that from Dolly? Oh my God.
That is awesome. Consider the source. That is the biggest compliment, seriously, ever.
And I thought, gee, it was worth those girls resenting me so much just to have Dolly Parton say that to me of all people. So I mean, I just thought it was great. It was great. The movie wasn't a hit, but it was love.
Yeah, I remember that. I was actually an usher in a movie theater when that came out.
Yeah,
and
Louise,
but again, a piece of history, and again, you got a great compliment from Dolly. And again, you continue to get in these movies that are parts of history. You're in Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. It was the first modern horror film that besides Jaws 3, that went 3D.
Yeah, yes. I didn't know at the time that it was a 3D movie. I just remember that, I just remember the scenario of what happened with that. I had gotten with a new agent, and this was the first interview the agent sent me out on. And I hadn't done that many like films that were like considered big. And so when I met the two people, and I can't remember who they were, I guess it was the writer and the director, and they asked me about myself. I said, well, I'm with this new agent, and this is my first interview, so I sure hope I get it. And I got it.
There you go. And of course, here's what Renee's been waiting for: Bachelor Party.
Bachelor Party, Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. This was his breakout movie.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll tell you who was one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in Hollywood. The late Tawny Katane. Absolutely the most incredibly beautiful woman, like a Raquel Welch, like a more slender version of a Raquel Welch type. Absolutely stunning. Tom Hanks is a very sarcastic, dry sense of humor, and he was a lot of fun in the makeup room and everything. And that's all I can tell you about that. It was another major thing that I was in where there was all these people around, and it was just a surreal experience, and it was a lot of fun. And Tom Hanks always had like a little smart remark about all of it, because he saw it in a very sarcastic way, and it was a lot of fun to listen to him.
It was a big, gigantic party of a movie.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was.
Bugsy with Warren Beatty.
Oh, that was, nobody knew that he and Annette Bening were becoming an item.
At that time, yes.
It's very interesting. I had met Warren Beatty once. Warren Beatty was known as a womanizer. You didn't even have to go to any parties to know that Warren Beatty was a major womanizer. So I was at this thing. It was a big deal thing. I think, again, it was at the Beverly Hilton. It was a big, lots of round tables, white tablecloths. Everybody's all dressed up. And I can't remember who they were honoring. I think it was a Friars event. And I was sitting there, and I had wanted to move up so I could see a little closer. So I saw that there was an empty seat. So I moved up, asked if anybody was sitting there. No. So I sat there, and my friends were still further in the back. And I'm getting ready, and Johnny Carson was getting ready to get up and speak. Yeah. Oh, that was very exciting. And this man comes over to me, and he just crouches down by me, and he just wants to talk to me. And I go, maybe I realized it was Warren Beatty, but I didn't care. I mean, I knew about his reputation and everything. I wasn't interested. And I go, I really came to see Johnny Carson. So could I listen, please? And that was the one time I spoke to Warren Beatty.
You like the funny guys.
So now I'm in the movie, and I was one of the girls that there was this scene where he waltzes with different girls, and it shows different things as he's thinking about the Annette Bening character. And I was one of the girls he was waltzing with, and of course he would never ever, because he was known to be someone who loved women, and a lot of them. And so I was just so surprised, what a different person he is on the set than he was with this intention of trying to get to know me, which he didn't know anything about me. He just wanted to get to know me, and I wasn't into it. I just wasn't into it at all.
Well, and that's a surprise to me, because I have a friend that lives in New York. Her name is Susan. She's actually the wife of a friend of mine. Well, she's a friend too. She saw Warren Beatty in like a bagel shop there in New York. And she goes, I don't know what it was about him. And again, they said that Bill Clinton has the same kind of charisma that just generates out. But she said, I wanted to just jump his bones right then and there in the bagel shop. But I was like,
and really? I wanted to hear Johnny Carson. And another thing. So the other thing I had to do was it was a husband and wife team. Denon and Marguerite Derrick, they were the choreographers for Bugsy. And they asked the girls one day, who could mambo? Well, I had a feeling it might be a specialty bit. So I raised my hand and I said, I can mambo. I didn't know how to mambo, but I figured it wasn't until Monday I could, and this was before computers, so I figured I could find somebody that could teach me how to mambo before Monday, because Bill Graham, the guy that used to produce all these rock shows and stuff, he was in the movie, and he had been a mambo dancer in the clubs, I guess back in the days in the 50s or something, when it was a big deal to be a mambo dancer and Latin dancer. And so I was going to be dancing with Bill Graham. So I ran to, at the time, there were telephone booths. And at the time, there were yellow pages. And I looked up ballroom, and I saw this place called Victor Drew School of Dance on La Brea. And I wasn't far from La Brea. It was a Friday. I had a feeling that I probably said yes to something more than I knew what I was saying yes to. And there was this very long staircase that I had to climb up the stairs. And I was like in a frenzy by now about what I had said yes to. And I looked in this room, and there was this man who looked like he was like a magician from like a 1940s movie, the black mustache, the black goatee, the black hair. And he was admiring himself, and he was dancing in the mirror. I guess he was between people. And I go, Victor Drew? And he said, yes, darling. And I said, I have to learn the mambo by Monday because I'm in this movie. And I said, yes. And I don't know what I said yes to. Is it hard to learn? Can you please teach me? And he taught me the basic steps. So by Monday, I was able to get through it. So after all that, thinking I was going to get a really special moment in the movie, when I got to see the movie, yeah, there were my feet and there were his feet. And that's all you saw were my feet.
Oh, jeez.
But they were moving very, very fast.
Okay, last film I want to talk about, Waterworld, with Kevin Costner and Dennis Hopper. You were part of Hopper's group?
Yeah, I was part of Hopper's group, getting ready every day for Waterworld, and we filmed it. We filmed it in LA County. Getting ready for Waterworld consisted of them putting all this gook on you, including Dippity Doo. Renee, do you remember Dippity Doo?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, it's gross. So anyway, you have to put
Absolutely disgusting, and you'll never recover. Once you know, you know.
and I had
You
very
only
long
dippity
hair.
do once.
Yes, I had long hair, and I was Dippity Dude, and then they put all this stuff on you so you looked like awful, and that's how I was for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time on this set, doing all this stuff, rowing and Dennis Hopper and in his little group, and it was kind of like a fascinating experience, and Kevin Costner was just like the nicest man, just the nicest man in the world, and Dennis Hopper was very kind of into himself. But he played this great character, and I was part of his little inner group where it was just like, it was just kind of like, I think I had my one line was about something about his eyeball because the eyeball got taken out, and I said something to him about his eyeball. I forgot how it was. I haven't seen the movie in a real long time, but it was something about. Well, you remember.
But you remember the dippity do. You never forget the dippity do.
Yeah, but it was like one of those lines that people remember that I said, like when I said in Friday the 13th, we've got no food stamps, because I went to a couple of conventions and that people would come with these books. They looked like your yearbook from high school or college. I mean, these big leather bound, beautiful books. And it had all the different Friday the 13ths in them. It was like amazing. And they would turn and they would ask me to write my major line in Friday the 13th part 3, and this was like a big deal for them because they were, I don't know what you call them, but they were Friday the 13th.
They were Jason fans.
Yes, and then I remember the first time I did a seminar with some of the people that I hadn't seen in years, decades, from Friday the 13th. It was in Orlando, and I was flown there, and somewhere on International Drive, but I think everything's on International Drive except Disney. And so I was there, and everybody had on in the audience these masks. And it was quite a thing to see all these masks looking back at me.
The hockey masks.
Yes, and the host said that this is the first time Annie is a virgin to the Friday the 13th conventions, so please welcome her. This is her first time, because there's people that go to these conventions and sell their wares. They go there for years selling their stuff. But all these people with these masks on looking, it was very interesting.
Well, I hope you get more of those, because they're interesting experiences. They're usually fun.
They all are interesting.
I promised you I wouldn't talk about this a lot on this show because we had your husband on the show a few weeks ago, but you did marry a celebrity husband.
I did.
95, John Viner.
1992.
92.
Yes.
Okay.
On Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's right. 20 years.
So he'd never forget.
There you go. There you go. So did that kind of get you out of the movies, or because I know you're doing more stage performance lately?
No, it didn't get me out of the movies. I did a lot. I started, I have had this cabaret act for a number of years, and I've traveled Japan, England. I did a USO tour.
So it's just a coincidence, and this was a better fit.
And I started working a lot as his opening act, and that got to keep us together. And but recently, we were both in a movie that's coming out in January. It's a remake of a cult favorite called DOA.
Oh yeah, Dead on Arrival. Yeah.
Yes.
There's
We
been a
don't have
couple of them, actually.
we don't have one scene together. We have nothing that we say to each other.
Same agent.
And it's coming out, I think, the first of the year. And then we also did recently during the pandemic last year, this pilot called Unfinished Business, where again we had no scenes together, and we had the same agent.
They're trying to pull you apart.
But I find that.
But you do a lot of theater up in North Florida, right?
I do a lot of theater everywhere, and
Everywhere.
I really have enjoyed doing theater, and I enjoy performing in if I'm acting, if I'm singing, if I'm dancing. I really love it because you get to play such a wide range of characters, and it's not just like one take and after the fifth take they go print, let's move on. You get to do it for weeks and weeks at a time, sometimes for months at a time. And
you work as an ensemble? You work with an ensemble, a cast,
well,
and you build relationships?
Yes. I've got to play some really great parts. One of my favorites, and I don't like to repeat parts too much, though sometimes when a theater hears that you did really well with something, they ask you if you'll repeat it. But I feel once you've done something like that, I like to move on. But one character that I really have enjoyed doing was Judy Holliday made her famous. It was Billy Dawn in Born Yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very fun, it's just a great character. And then most recently, a character that I would not repeat because it was a very difficult part, but Barbra Streisand bought the rights and did a movie of it several years ago called Nuts. It's about a call girl who gets accused of murder and who has to stand trial, and the person that's prosecuting her thinks she should be put away, that she's insane, and she has to prove her worth. And that was just a really riveting kind of part. And I've got to do 2 Marilyn Monroe roles. One was written by Arthur Miller after he divorced Marilyn Monroe, so she wasn't his favorite cookie at the time, and it was called After the Fall. And it was one of those roles that take everything out of you kind of thing.
It's very taxing. Yes.
And then a fun role that I got to do that Marilyn Monroe created a few years back was Bus Stop.
Bus Stop, yeah.
So
where can we catch you in the near future? Where can our audience look for you? I mean, other than DOA, which is coming out early next year.
Well, I'm waiting
for that.
I'm waiting to hear if Unfinished Business gets picked up, or if not, that will be a perfect title for a pilot. Unfinished Business, right? I'm sure you've done.
And we've gone long today, so we have Unfinished Business. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Has it been an hour?
It's an hour and 3 minutes already. Yeah, almost an hour and 4 minutes. Went so fast. Yeah, you have wonderful stories. Please tell John Biner hello for us and give his love. Give him our love, and at you as well. And again, we'll have to get you back on again soon.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I hadn't talked about some of these things like forever and a day.
Oh, it was so amazing. Thank you, Annie. Please come back, please.
And happy birthday, Renee.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go and sob and cry. This is like the funnest thing ever happened.
Happy birthday, Renee.
Air conditioning,
Rory. Yeah, no, just kidding.
She knew it was going to be a great show. She knew it. I knew it.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much. And thank you to the fans who came on out and also the replay squad, all of you people watching on the replay. We do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our Facebook group. Thank you. Bye, everybody.